Good morning, lovely people. Good morning, good morning. Hope everyone is well. Okay, so we are learning today. If I could remember what day of the week it was, then that would be very helpful. Okay, so today's learning is dedicated in memory of Pinchas ben Avram Blackstein, Malka bas Pesach HaKohen Palmer, Malka bas Pesach HaKohen, Raza Lev bas Yisrael Pelham, Eliezer ben Yitzchak Pak, as well as those that we're saying Kaddish for the year: Leah bas Bible, Ben Yom Akiv, Ben Shlomo, Rav Yaakov Tzvi, Ben David Aryeh, Tipora Fegler bas Reuven Baruch, Paul Casimir, Shalom ben Eleli, Ben bas Bible, from Shoshana bas Yaakov Shmuel, Caleb Bela bas Henoch, Yom Yochio ben Moshe Eliezer, Sarah bas Ben Yom Shlomo Yechia ben Yeshua Levi, Avram Mordechai ben Moshe Katna, and Aryeh ben Shimon. We wish their respective families long life. Okay, as you can see behind me, I apologize. Not only is the phone not rotating correctly, but we have the sun or daylight streaming through the windows of Woodside Park. Isn't that a wonderful sign as we head towards spring? So the Mishnah that we're going to do today, we started yesterday, but I don't think we did it justice. And it's a real fundamental principle. It really is a landmark. So let's go through it again. And then good morning, everyone that is still joining us. Good morning, David. Good morning, Harry. Okay, so the question we always have, I think if you were to ask most people in the world, what would be their one of the gripes, one of the gnawing away questions of being a people of faith, any faith, it's why do bad things happen to good people and why do the wicked seemingly prosper? Okay? Now, if we have a look at the advice of the Mishnah says, number 19, this is chapter 4, Mishnah 19 of Pirkei Avos, of Ethics of the Fathers. Rabbi Yanai said, Ein bi'adeinu, there is not in our hands, lo mishavas harashoyim, v'af lo misuri hasadikim. It is not in our power to explain either the tranquility of the wicked or the suffering of the righteous. What does that mean? It's not in our power, right? Okay, so the commentators, Rab Samson Raphael Hirsch, says as follows: we cannot. So again, for those that are still joining us, good morning, Rachel and others. So we are asking the question: why do bad things happen to good people? Why is it the wicked seemingly prosper? And the Mishnah has just said, Rabbi Yana has just said that it's not in our power to explain it. You know, don't even try to explain it. Okay, so. Okay, I'm trying to hold the camera and do two things at once because, as I said, it's not working properly. So he says as follows, Rob Hirsch: we cannot know for sure if what befalls each of them is indeed a blessing or a calamity. Okay? We don't know. We're looking, and I will explain it in a minute. We don't know when we see something which seems as a blessing, it could be not a blessing, and a calamity may actually be a blessing. And you'll hear more about that in my Pesach video that's going out. We must therefore abstain from passing judgment in either case and not permit our own short-sighted view of events to influence our decisions. So succinctly, Reb Samson Raphael Hirsch explains one of the most niggling, troubling questions we all have. Let's first explain what we are dealing with, right? In Hebrew, the language is Sadik Veralo Rasha Vatovlo. Bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. So the question, starting point is, well, how do you know? Right? Harry, how do you know? Well, because as the Rabbi Yanai says, a cursory glance, what we see, in the words of Rav Hirsch, it appears as if that is the case. The analogy that's given, many analogies, right? But Rabbi Lev, in a long three-part series, explains as follows. If we were to imagine that there was a king, and all of a sudden, this is going. I'm sorry, this is not one when you're munching your cereal, but it goes as follows. If you imagine a king and he sentences somebody to death by starvation, okay? They put him in a cage and they put him in the center of town, right? And everyone comes to see what's going on. So they heard the verdict. Now they are seeing this person sitting there absolutely starving, and not being able to do anything. So day one, he's jumping around, right? It looks like he's having a great time, okay? Day two, yeah, he's not quite as active, but nonetheless, he's still cursing the king. He's still sitting upright. By day three, he's absolutely famished. He's laying down. He's very lame. Doesn't have any strength. Now, by what's going to happen on day 5 or day 6 or day 7 or day 8? So let me tell you what happened in this analogy, okay? Somebody comes riding into town, right? And they see that they heard that this person's being starved to death as an example by the king. And all of a sudden they come in and they see him chomping on a piece of meat. And they look around and they say to people, what type of punishment is this? I heard that this guy is being executed. He's eating a steak. That doesn't make sense. Little do they know, and this is if you don't want to listen to this part over your breakfast, then turn it off now, that the piece of meat that he is eating is actually his own arm, okay? So when he's chomping away, he's actually a cannibal, cannibalizing his own body because he is so hungry. So if we freeze frame and we look at that moment in time, what would somebody see if you took a snapshot of that moment in that person's life? He's eating. He's great. He's all right. He's doing well. He's having a steak. I'm before Pesach. There's nothing to eat in my house, and he's sitting here eating and threshing. But if you look at the whole picture, if you knew what came beforwards, but if you know what came beforehand, and that means the verdict, and you saw him becoming more and more weak, and then you see what comes afterwards, which is he eventually passes from this world, then you would realize exactly what's going on. There are many, many analogies like this. One more which we'll give, which is that the king once commissioned somebody to design, to make an artist, to make the most majestic portrait for his wall in honor of his anniversary. So the man comes, this great artist comes to the king, Monet or Picasso, whoever you want, and he says to him, I'm prepared to do it, but we're going to have to make a deal. It's going to take 6 months, and in that 6 months, no one is allowed in to look at the painting. King says, fine, deal's a deal, okay? So every day the artist comes in, and you can imagine he does a bit of background, there's a few colors, nothing much is happening. After 3 months, the king is very, very curious. So in the middle of the night, he sneaks in when the artist has gone home, and he pulls back the shmutter that's covering this masterpiece, quote unquote. And lo and behold, to his amazement, rather than him seeing in front of himself a masterpiece, he sees an absolute mess. He sees a smudge of black, he sees a bit of yellow, he sees a bit of gray, and there's no picture. He's furious, absolutely furious. He thinks that this guy is making fun of the king, this artist is taking the mick, and therefore he calls him in the next day. He says, I'm going to have you hung, okay? You're making fun of me. I'm not going to wait 6 months to hang you. I'll do it right now. So the man says, hold on. You have no idea what I'm doing. You need to wait and see, okay? The king says, okay, here's the deal. I'm prepared to wait. I'm prepared to wait for the other 3 months, but if you don't do a proper masterpiece for my anniversary, I will literally hang you on the spot. So 3 months go by, and now the 6 months are up, and now the king brings him forward with his portrait. He pulls off the shmata, and to everyone's amazement, there's a gasp. Wow! Oh, what a beautiful masterpiece. They now understand, they're able to see the black smudges, right, were actually the shadows. The brown was the trees, and the yellow in the sky was the sunshine, the rays of sunshine that are coming down onto the trees, reflecting the light, etc., etc. You get the idea. If we just are like this king, where we see one moment in history, then inevitably we are going to be exceptionally frustrated, angry, and disappointed. But if we're prepared, recognize that we don't see the whole picture. We're only seeing 70 years, 100 years at most, out of thousands of years of the world's history. How can we expect to understand things? The other thing that is said is that we find that when it comes to when it comes to this question, Mazel tov, everyone. Sorry, we just got a bar mitzvah coming in. So we find that when it comes to this question, that in a Holocaust, of course, they struggled with this question tremendously, and there was a moment when somebody asked one of the rebbes, of course, who was being beaten the same as anybody else, and he asked him, "How do you explain what's going on? How do you explain it? How do you live with this? Where's your God?" In fact, we know in Auschwitz, they put God on trial. They found him guilty. And after having found him guilty, they then went and says, right, now let's daven mincha. So the point being that when it comes to this question, the Rebbe said, I have many questions. I have your question. Why do bad things? Why do the Nazis seem to prosper? Why do good things happen to the wicked? Why do bad things happen to the righteous at the moment? But I know that the answers aren't here. The questions are in our world. The answers are above. And therefore, I'd rather be here with the questions and live with the questions rather than be upstairs with the answers. There'll be plenty of time where we have the answers. But in the meantime, we have to live with the questions. And that is what Rav Yanai is saying. Rav Yanai is saying that it is impossible for us to understand at one snapshot of history, and therefore we have to live with the questions. We're going to finish off because we literally have 2 minutes until we're meant to start, okay? So let's now do the Psalm of the day, Psalm 23. Thank you everyone for joining us virtually. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Adon Olamim lecho es nishmais. Lea bas Vaivo ben Yamin Akiva ben Shlomo, Rav Yaakov Tzvi ben David, Aryeh Sachs, Tzipora Vegel bas Ruven Baruch, Paul Kazimeh, Shalom ben Eleli, Ben bas Vaivo from Shana bas Yaakov Shmuel, Caleb ben bas Henoch, Yirmiyahu Chia ben Moshe, Eliezer Malka bas ben Yamin, Shlomo Chia ben Yeshua Levi, Avram Chai ben Moshe Katna, Aryeh ben Shimon. And the York sites for today, Pinchas ben Avram Blackstein, Malka bas Pesach, Hakoim Palmer, Raizo Lev bas Yisrael Pelem, Eliezer ben Yisrael Pak, Shalchu Linamam, Takad Aiden, Taimenu Chasam, Lachim Elarachamim, Yasi Rain Basisa Kanafab Yalamim, Vesachai Seshmasamad Night, Nachlasam, Yanufu, Beshlamish Kavam, Venomar, Amen. Lastly, Fushleim a prayer for those that are unwell in our community and beyond. Misha Berach, Abasin Rabbi Misrav Yaakov Moshan, David Shlomo Yivarach Repesachedim. Babo Shanim Bispalim, Babo Ram Bischazakosh Bochi, Malirach Malihim, Lach Malafasab, Ishlachim Fushleim and Shmaim, Lochol Erin Basoch, Shach, Yisara, Fuasan Nefesh, Fuasagum, Hashtag Makarev and Omar, Amen. Wishing everyone well. Please, God, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock. You've got to lie in bed, and that's 7 o'clock tomorrow for the last in this week's series of Learn and Pray. Take care. Have a great day, everyone.